Greetings viewers to another full install review. Now the chances are if you were born any time before the turn of the millennium, you will be familiar with the Alien franchise. The original Alien often has a battle with Blade Runner as my favourite film, and 99% of the time comes out on top, although Blade Runner did win the better poster battle. This was actually one of the first films I ever remember seeing, and while that sounds like a bit of a far-fetched statement, one of my earliest ever memories of a child was being at play school. For you American viewers, that would be kindergarten, I suppose, when you're about 3 years old before making the transition into primary school, and being too scared to go into the adjoining room because I was convinced an alien would swing down and get me from the connecting hallway. I was probably scared of the dark until about the age of 12 or 13, but I would still watch Alien or Aliens every chance I got. I really couldn't get enough of it as a child. I remember the day that I found out there was a third film, my mind nearly actually exploded. A lot of people really don't like the third film at all, and I do understand why, but I encourage people to seek out the Blu-ray or DVD at least, and watch the director's cut. It still kills off two of the main characters from Aliens, but it gives a bit more insight to the inmates and how they have an integral part in the plot, and gives a better explanation to the birth of the alien.
Sorry.
Alien 3, or Cubed, as it looks written down, was my first experience playing an Alien game. There had been many Alien games prior, such as Alien on the Commodore 64, which bizarrely looks even more appealing as time goes on, and Aliens on the MSX, not to mention the arcade releases. But this one was the first, and for a while the only game I had to experience battling the xenomorphs. As a release to coincide with the movie, Alien 3 did not exactly follow the plot of its counterpart movie. Ripley was bald, but rather than having no weapons and only one alien to fight, you had a full arsenal and multiple aliens to slaughter. At the time though, I had played the game before seeing or even knowing about the film, so I assumed the game was made as a sequel to Aliens and had no idea you were meant to be playing as Ripley. I always thought you were some bald skinny dude. After seeing the movie though, I thought in retrospect they would have done a much better job had they kept it in line with the film, and instead of running around blasting away aliens left, right and centre, had you solving puzzles to maybe trap and avoid the alien, something which the new Alien Isolation game has in the bag. Many years after Alien 3 came Alien Resurrection, which in my opinion was perfectly entertaining as a sequel with a standout soundtrack, and this also spawned maybe the best looking PS1 game we ever got. With no films over the horizon, I didn't expect an Alien game to come along for quite some time, but in 1999 we purchased a sound card which came with an unexpected CD. Aliens vs Predator was the game I had been waiting for, brutally hard for the time, true to the films, and most importantly, it had the sound effects. I never cared for the Predator sections much, and the Alien campaign was a bit strange, but other than this, it had everything, including a fantastic co-op multiplayer. Aliens vs Predator did have a sequel which I didn't find as appealing as the original, primarily because they changed the sound of the pulse rifle, and that is sacrilege. It was more balanced in favour of the Predator this time in terms of inclusion, and the combat was more sluggish and less ferocious. A good game still, but I preferred the original. There were a few Alien games that never made too much of an impression, such as the Alien comic book game and Aliens Online. After this, however, Alien did sort of seem to sink into the back of memory for the best part of a decade, until the announcement of Prometheus, upon which came Aliens Colonial Marines, which I didn't play, and neither did you because it looked absolutely awful. Despite being such a big fan of the original quadrilogy, I had completely forgotten about the prospect of new Alien games, until about a month or two ago when Amazon recommended for me Aliens Infestation on the Nintendo DS. I remember watching an exhibition video about the time it was coming out when no one seemed interested in their booth, and the limited time on camera only suggested that it was a Metroid style game and had been created out of love for the films. Then I saw the price on Amazon, £3.50 with free delivery. Just to give you a little sneak preview to what I thought of the game, I recently had 2 weeks in Norway in a log cabin with a girlfriend who goes to sleep for about 15 hours at 9 PM, leaving me with no TV or radio and only my 3DS XL and phone for company. And out of Bravely Default, Zelda Between Two Worlds and Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy, I don't think Aliens made it out of the cartridge slot. When the game begins, we are treated to a brief synopsis of where we are in the Alien chronology. Taking place shortly after the events of Alien 3, you take command of Team Fox 6 of Charlie Squad, a team of 4 sent to investigate the whereabouts of the USS Sulaco, which has been reportedly found adrift after a period of absence preceding the events of the Aliens movie. Arriving alongside you are Teams Delta and Echo, who are on their own missions, securing the command center and retrieving the flight records. Your mission as Fox 6 is to make contact with the one human lifeform that has been detected prior to your arrival and extract them to your ship, the Sephura. To coincide with the one known human, there has also been some strange readings that no one can quite put their finger on what they might be, but I'm sure before long they will explain themselves. These opening few moments really do give an insight to how much of a love letter to the Alien franchise this game will proceed to be. There has already been a substantial effort to reference locations from films prior. Our main character is called Cameron, which is an obvious wink to the Aliens director, and we have some familiar dialogue and character designs here. As your adventure begins, you are given the choice of which of the 4 of your team members you wish to play as. The story and gameplay will progress the same regardless of choice, but it is nice to be able to have a selection. Your first mission is to establish the location of a terminal, gaining you access to the layout of the Sulaco. The gameplay from here out takes place entirely on the top screen as a side-scrolling exploratory shooter, much in the vein of Metroid or Shadow Complex, or as of 2014, the new Strider game. Your characters begin with the pleasingly familiar sounding pulse rifle and a pistol which, while ineffective, is host to unlimited ammo. You can sprint using the R button, and along with the combat roll, this will deplete your stamina bar, which recharges whilst walking, crouching or standing still. You can also shoot in 7 directions from a stationary stance by holding the L button, and use projectiles such as the pulse rifle's RPG launcher or equipped grenades for further firepower. The bottom touchscreen is host to your inventory, team statuses, and once acquired map and motion sensor. At first glance it may appear that you can switch between team members at the tap of a stylus, but this is not the case. Your team members act as your extra lives, and as the game progresses can be replaced, if dead, by found members of Charlie Squad. However, team members can be switched at safe rooms that are scattered around the Sulaco, where you can also save, switch weapons and restock health and ammo. Switching team members is pretty much a tokenistic task, as each character other than appearance is identical and health is regenerated upon entering these rooms. But as the game does progress, you do develop a small personal bond with each character and will often choose a lesser liked team member to explore the dangerous area in fear of losing your favourites. Visually, Infestation is a pleasing blend of graphic novel inflected character design whilst maintaining the known aesthetic primarily from the Aliens movie. Once you have got your bearings, you are free to scout the Sulaco, and it is clear from the offset that this is a game that will require exploration and a certain level of backtracking. You will be faced with certain obstacles even throughout the early stages of your adventure, such as welded doors, steam vents, and lifts that require a certain level access card. The first of your tools to help expand from your starting point are grenades, which allow you to blow open hatches to the ship's inner shafts. These areas share close resemblance to the shaft sections from Alien 3, and help to shift the environmental tone of the open Sulaco to a more claustrophobic, quiet setting. As you progress, you will find clues as to what may have happened to the members of the Sulaco, mainly via their remains, leading you to your first encounter in form of combat droids scattered around the lower levels. These are easy to kill as they can't shoot to your crouching level and are easily dispatched with a few rounds from your rifle, but it acts as a sufficient learn by doing approach to basic combat. Exploration through the rest of the game will take the form of gaining items in order to progress both horizontally and vertically around the Sulaco through various obstacles and enemies. Speaking of enemies, it wouldn't be an Aliens game without aliens. As per the film's counterparts, the presence of xenomorphs is hinted at with Giger's inspired scenes of biological scenery and dark eerie atmosphere including cocoon captives, and it isn't too long until we are faced with our real threats, the aforementioned aliens. So far, all of this points towards a game that has its heart in the right place, but understanding the origins doesn't necessarily mean a fun experience. Luckily, however, after the charmingly fun Batman Brave and the Bold, WayForward Technologies haven't neglected the basic principle of making a game, and that's making one that is a joy to play. The controls feel tight and the weight of your character along with the animation fit the gameplay perfectly. Gaining new items and exploring new areas of the Sulaco coincide equally with the difficulty of the enemies, which results in a well balanced progressional curve. One of the main staples of the Aliens film has always been the weaponry and military equipment, and as you would expect before long, your arsenal will grow. For the most part, the pulse rifle will serve you proud, especially with the use of the attached grenade launcher rounds, but acquiring the shotgun early on will sway you into changing your strategy to a more slow-paced, close quarters combat.
I'd like to keep this handy for close encounters.
I heard that.
Not all weapons are purely for the purpose of alien disposal. The flamethrower, whilst being the only primary weapon that regenerates its ammo, is also used to remove certain obstructions from doors. And whilst you can throw fire around in an unlimited capacity with regards to a fast recharge rate, this is the most underpowered weapon in the game. Luckily, scattered around the Sulaco, along with ammo and health packs, are weapon upgrades. Each weapon can be upgraded 3 times for an increased damage rate, which early on is really down to your own personal preference as to which weapon you wish to have as an overpowered alien slayer. Along with the shotgun and flamethrower, you will finally obtain the trademark smart gun, which holds the most consumable ammo and is well suited for long exploratory plays. It will probably take less than an hour to be familiar with the way the Sulaco is structured, and this is to the game's credit. Often these, and I hate to use this term, but Metroidvania style games can be often a bit overfacing. There is something equally appealing and frustrating knowing that you are entering an environment where you know from the get-go that there are lots of secrets and hidden rooms which can only be explored by backtracking. However, the Sulaco is of a perfect size and it doesn't take too long to traverse from one end to the other, but along the way you will often find a new hatch or door you had forgotten about which you will now have the ability to open. It does a good job of covering familiar ground in a way that doesn't directly point to previously locked locations or make you feel that you may have missed something important. At the same token, the game is by no means linear. There were many times that I was running around exploring, trying to ascertain which of the many locations I had not yet been to, which I needed to advance the story, only to be led astray by locked doors or a barricade that I did not yet have the means to open. As your arsenal grows and you uncover more of the ship's map, you will discover new types of aliens to fight and a familiar plot twist involving the Weyland-Yutani company featured in the movies. Eventually, you will be presented with this sinister looking gentleman, and it is pretty obvious to anyone that has watched one of these films what his intentions are. As the plot thickens, your presence on Sulaco becomes apparently unwelcome, giving you new enemies in the form of humans. Unfortunately, however, these seem a little bit like arbitrary padding to the game, and most of them can be dispatched with ease and act as the game's only reason to include the cover system. Luckily though, you traverse from section to section with haste, and with only minimal dialogue to act as the plot's delivery, you are quite often left wanting more. The game is not without its shortcomings however, and these are somewhat saved from being over problematic by the game's short length. As you would expect, your main enemy here is the alien, and along with a few eggs, face huggers and half-breeds, these are really all you have to fight with the exception of boss battles. This would not have been much of an issue had the AI not been so simplistic. Enemies pretty much appear and run right at you, which is the action that a ferocious alien would take, but paired with the motion tracker makes every encounter a walk in the park. You do have the option to turn the map and tracker off to give yourself the element of surprise, but as long as your character is walking, most enemies can be fired upon before they get too close, and a fully upgraded shotgun makes easy work of the later stage aliens. That said, there were many times playing that I did lose characters. Enemies can often swarm you if you are too overconfident going into an area, and boss battles can be tricky to familiarise yourself with quick enough to not be killed before you learn their patterns. Ammo throughout the game is also needlessly placed. You'll be far pressed to run out of ammo on an exploratory run due to the high amount of safe rooms scattered around the Sulaco, and with the exception of boss battles it was never necessary to pick any of these up. Minor issues aside, this is still one of the funnest games I've played in recent history, and that comes down to design and execution. This is a well built game and one that knows its origins and sticks to it. As a fan of all games, the pacing and exploration are not overwhelming nor are they boring, and new items are found at such a rate that the gameplay never gets stale. But as a fan of the Alien franchise, it also has all those little extras that we want to see, however insignificant they might be. An example of breaking up the normality of the gameplay is a driving gun section where you must take control of the APC from aliens, and later on a zero gravity section where you must float around the outside of the Sulaco in a suit resembling Ripley's from the end of the Alien movie. First time finishing this game took me around about 5 hours, and replaying it for this review took about 3.5, but I never felt like I was replaying the game to capture footage. I genuinely enjoyed playing the game a second time around, and to feel that so close after finishing it the first time around is something I haven't felt in a game for 15 years. There really is nothing about this game that is groundbreaking. The combat is fairly simple, the methods of exploration are relatively uninventive, and the enemies are easy, but it is all compiled with a sense of competence which makes it very playable. It does come with its faults. For instance, the smart gun can be manipulated to fire at a much faster rate by holding the L button and constantly moving the angle of it, but this just made me smile and think back to a time when games used to be made a little bit better by having to exploit glitches to get further. For a game that could be completed in one sitting, it by no means outstays its welcome, and whilst it lasts, it is really fun and has all the right nods to Alien fans, and there is even a knife game unlocked after completion for an extra bonus. It was a real pleasant surprise to find a game this good that cost less than a pint of beer, and one I really feel does need more press. It doesn't raise any bars, but it achieves everything that it tries to, and it is so nice to see that Sega logo flying high once again. Definitely one to check out if you haven't already.
Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
Alien, they say its structural perfection's matched only by its hostility. Even artificial persons are impressed. It preys on man. Don't need no special suit, don't need no nukes, and don't need no artillery to rip right through your chest.